Alright guys, so we're gonna finish this last match of this league with something that we tossed together. It's just an Esper Zer kind of thing. Um, the deck was fun. We actually ended up not too bad for ourselves. We ended up 2-2 so far in a league. And obviously one of these ring effects should have been a detention sphere. We realized that after we'd already started playing. But yeah, little things like that, and we just wanted to see if the escalate cards were really just due to their flexibility worth playing. Anyways, this is just something I slapped together, and we played with it a couple streams ago, and I wanted to finish it. In part because the league is refreshing in a few days, like I think 2 or 3 days from now. I just got a notification for that. Also, I wanted to queue with a different deck. I've got a couple ideas I'm messing around with. I'm messing around with some of the cards from Kaladesh. I'm also considering just brewing different takes on modern decks I've played in the past, and because I think Kaladesh has some really cool mechanics that certainly could be viable, at least in you know, maybe more than just standard. Nothing out of Kaladesh other than the throwback cards. You know, the special what's the word I'm looking for? I think they did a really good job with it. The art on the new cards from Kaladesh. I like the border on them, I should say. But the odds of opening one is very slim, and not all of them are, you know. I think it's cool that they're doing that, though. They said it was likened to the special premium cards they did with Battle for Zendikar. So there's that, and you know, just kind of just I guess an incentive for players who enjoy the older formats to crack open or play in some events that probably wouldn't otherwise be that interested in playing. I know I fall under that category. I find myself not that interested. Alright, here we go. So, Esper Zer. I think we're calling it Brutal Zer because it had the brutalities. That seems like a fine hand. I think a turn 1 Thoughtseize is fine. Alright. So it looks like he kept this on the back of the Spirit Dancers. Obviously, we don't really care about the rest. So we'll take a Spirit Dancer, and then next turn we can take the other Spirit Dancer, and then we're looking pretty good. Now, the other thing is we could just let him play the Spirit Dancer, and then we'll Agony Warp it. There's that. Geist of St. Traft for us. Okay. I think what I'll do is I'll just go Colonnade, take the other. Now on the flip side, Agony Warp actually can kill the Spirit Dancer. So, you know, it's tempting, but if he doesn't have a threat, we're fine. We can just play the Geist and, you know, try to win. If he draws a Hexproof threat, though, we're in a lot of trouble. I mean, what I could do, I guess I could next turn Snap, Seize, take the Daybreak Coronet. I think that was the scariest thing my opponent had in hand, was the Daybreak. So he drew a land. Thoughtseize. So the things I'm most scared of are Coronet and maybe the Spirit Mantle. Oops. Need blue on this. You know, some people have said that Thoughtseize is one of the strongest cards you can play in Modern. They're not wrong. I think on the flip side of that, there's a lot of aggressive decks in Modern that Thoughtseize is just not a thing. I think I'm only running 3 Thoughtseize in this as well. No, the strength on the card is definitely up there in power level. I mean, it's, you know, you even see Thoughtseize in sure. You know, you're even going to see Thoughtseize in, you know, in Legacy, and you're going to see. I don't see too much of it in Vintage, but that's understandable. And we drew Brutality. I mean, I could take his path, and then that cuts the clock. We could also get rid of the Agony Warp to drain him, and that puts him to 11, which doesn't... That doesn't change our clock significantly. Well, no, it does. It does. If he goes to 11 versus 13, it's a whole turn. We clock him, he's dead. So we actually will escalate this because I want to take his path and I want to drain him. So we'll do these 2. There you go. Brutality being relevant. Take his path before the angel happens. Drain him. Yeah, now he's at 5, so now next turn, if he doesn't draw anything, you know, we got him. Okay. Would I guess that we have a good matchup against Bogles? No, we're probably going to lose the next game because if he keeps a hand with a 1-drop creature, I can't really do much about it. Yeah, I can't really do much about it. The paths are bad. Blessed Alliance is great in this match, actually, so we have a chance. They have to sacrifice an attacking creature, so that's a thing. My spell snares are okay. Like, they hit the Daybreak. We care about Daybreak. Let's move these over so we can kind of see how it's actually curving. Yeah, so these are the manlands. Dismember can come out as well, and we can put in Counter Squalls, I guess. Warp can come out. So these Counter Squalls can come in. Timely buys me time. Prison is a thing. They don't run that many lands. Maybe we want the Prison. Maybe we want another... Maybe we want the Elspeth after all. I mean, like, her -3 is relevant. Do we want... You know, it's not a very fast matchup, so I don't know about these. I mean, I think that the O-rings are just weak in general. I mean, sure, you can snag a particularly problematic... their colors are pretty volatile as well. I mean, maybe you want the spreading. I don't think Brutality is great either. Collective Brutalities. So, like, that could come out as well. Make room for the Ancestrals. And then you just run the O-rings anyway because they're not great, but they can trade for a problematic enchantment, and you just kind of hope that that's enough. I mean, none of this is exciting to me. All this stuff here is not exciting. So, I guess we'll just kind of go with that and hope. I think this match is. I think we just got really lucky with that pile of Thoughtseizes. I think this match is definitely more so in my opponent's playing field for winning. But yeah, I mean, speaking of which, like, this hand, we can't keep this. This is most of our late game crap. And then we're not doing anything till turn 3, so let's mulligan that. This is fine. We can get Godless Shrine here. We've got and a Blessed. I would keep this hand off of the fact that it's 2 lands. We're on the draw, a Thoughtseize and a Blessed Alliance. I I don't really care too much about the... oh, he's mulling down to 5. Top that. We're going to keep that. The Blessed Alliance is what's going to give us a freaking chance. Alright, so he does have Ley Line, so the Thoughtseize is ineffective. But I think that these Blessed Alliances will give us a lot of play here. It's kind of a weird card to be heavy on in a control deck. That's fine. So let's go ahead and get all our colors in order. So I'm definitely thinking Godless Shrine here. Drew a Spell Snare a little too late. That's okay. Because this alliance should be really good here. It sucks that he's going to get to cantrip, though. Obviously, you know, that's the awesome thing about Spirit Dancer is that you get to cantrip. So we'll make him sacrifice the Spirit Dancer. Oh, Jesus, yeah. I wasn't even thinking about it, guys. We can't even, because of the ley line, I can't even alliance. It is target player. So not only can we not Thoughtseize, we can't also Blessed Alliance. We're probably just dead here. Yeah, I've got a Snapcaster and no third land drop. And not that playing Geist would save us. This card is going to be fantastic against us. We did bring in the O-Rings, so, you know, I guess O-Ringing ley line is a thing now. Now we're just dead in a couple swings here. No, that's brilliant. I mean, yeah, I can't really do much. I mean, even if I don't really want to show the alliance, I mean, we could gain life off these alliances and then hope to... We can't go runner, land, Wrath of God, you know. I don't think that's a thing. Now, maybe we should, though, because we could go alliance. We could go alliance, draw land, or O-Ring, draw land, O-Ring, the Spirit Dancer. Let's not give up all hope. So let's gain 4. There you go, drew land. Playing Geist isn't that exciting. If I did, I'd play it off basic planes. We could just die, because he could just, get another relevant enchantment on that. No, Leyline seems bonkers against us, especially since we needed the alliance to work on the Spirit Dancer here. It's one of those things, you know, you kind of drew the Spell Snare too late. It's okay, we get a game 3. Win or lose, definitely we get another chance at this. Alright, so, Colonnade the draw. So what are we doing again? We're going to Blessed Alliance so we don't die. I mean, he adds anything to the Spirit Dancer, we die. So I think it looks pretty grim. Yeah, there you go. There's the Daybreak. Well, I'm definitely gonna snare the Daybreak, but he still gets the draw, of course. So, may not even matter. Okay, we can go to 1. And then it's like top deck, so what, top deck Wrath of God? Well, he's got a Hyena Umbra, it won't even matter. He's got Totem Armor. Another Spirit Dancer. Okay. Alright. So the ley line was pretty gross there. I still think we sideboarded okay. I mean, unless you want to run some stuff to that hits Unless you want to run some stuff that'll hit those particular creatures. I mean, again, I don't think the game's long enough for Ancestral to really matter. That's fair. I mean, maybe we leave in some paths. Or maybe the Warp would actually be better since we're running the Spreading Seas. Maybe you still run, like, maybe you run the Dismember and the Warp over the Vision. By that same token, if you know, the game's going to be over very quickly, do you really want, do you even want to bother with, do you even want to bother with Elspeth, you know? You know what, I'm going to try that. I mean, yes, most of his threats are hexproof, so it doesn't really matter. Let's see. This could also go really poorly. I'll keep it. Okay, there's the Bogle. Now, it's funny is, you know, this time there's no ley line, but we don't have the, make him sacrifice. This time around. So, interestingly enough, I can't, I mean, yeah, I can just warp the Spirit Dancer. I'd rather save the Spell Snare, because you can target it with both abilities. So that's fine. Do need to grab Swamp here. Yeah, we can just give it both effects and kill it. Let's see. Thoughtseize the draw. Interesting, interesting. Okay, let's fire that off. What we got? So there's a Daybreak and a Hyena Umbra. So we're going to take the Umbra, and then we'll Spell Snare the Coronet. So we'll take... Yeah, I mean, what's funny, though, is I mean, it looks good for us. It looks like we're going to make it through, but... Again... I have to put something on the table. I have to answer this Bogle, so... It's not like we can just sit back and, you know... I do want to have white. We don't really need black. I don't actually have another fountain for some reason. Maybe that's an... Oh, that's because I think we're running all the colonnades. I think that's why I went with that decision. I think we do want to make sure we have white. Alright, colonnades. We're getting closer to Dragon Lord. Say go. Okay, there's an Umbra. That seems worth squalling. Because, I mean, he can't even... He has to have an initial enchantment to even... You need to have an enchantment to even, you know, put the Daybreak onto the Bogle, so that seems like it makes sense. Alright, so I think it's okay to slam Dragon Lord here. It's too bad he's not at 15, you know. Maybe he'll crack that fetch, because if he goes to 15, I can kill him in 3 swings. That's the hope. This is just not this Bogle player's day, is it? This is not his day. I mean, unless the sand is just full of paths, I don't know. Alright, Souls, Snap. Don't really care about the shores. So I'm thinking it's Souls. I mean, like, Snapcaster does give me access to the counter scroll, which is very... That is very relevant. Getting access to this counter scroll is relevant. Thoughtseize not so much at this point. I mean, Souls is fine too. I think actually I'm gonna opt for the Snapcaster Mage. And remember, we still have the Spell Snare up. So he might get one aura onto the Bogle, but we're not gonna let him get the Daybreak onto it, which is very important. Okay, he scoops him up. So we just went 3-2 with this pile of... Is it a pile? Yes, it was. But you know what? Play points. Yeah, so I think what I wanted to do was thinking of looking into Kaladesh, and I'm thinking of there were a couple cards in Kaladesh that struck my fancy. I think one of them was the new 2-drop. Let's see. Oh, am I jumping the gun? I'm probably jumping the gun here. I don't see Kaladesh here at all. I thought I saw some people playing Kaladesh already. That's probably not. I think I saw a lot of people playing Cube for sure, so maybe that's what's going on right now, is it still hasn't come out yet. Well, you know what? In that case, let me pull up. Let me pull this up. I had a couple cards I was thinking about, and I'm meant to do this for a little bit, do like talk about the set kind of thing. The obvious Gear Hulks that people have been seeing play already. Cataclysmic. Let me zoom in here. Maybe a little too much. Okay, so Cataclysmic has obvious play potential, especially since some of the sweepers in Standard are 5 mana anyway. You got your Fumigate. We'll talk about Fumigate later. I think the Torrential Gear Hulk is really neat. The fact that it casts an instant from your graveyard without paying the mana cost could be absurd. There are some instants out there that are very, 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 very powerful that are a lot of mana that wouldn't normally see play in any format, really. But the fact that you could like set it up, you could like loot it, and then you Gear Hulk in their end step, and then you get access to this ridiculous instant. I mean, we could look through Magic's history, or at least the card legality in Modern, and see if there's any absurd instants that just shouldn't be an instant that, you know, this guy could cast for free, essentially. People are jokingly calling the Torrential Gear Hulk some sort of weird, you know, cousin to Snapcaster. They're very different cards, I think we should point out. For example, Snapcaster Cryptic is 6 mana. Torrential Gear Hulk can also essentially be a Snap Cryptic play, except you're getting a 5/6. So, that's where they start to equal each other. Let me explain that better. So if you go Snapcaster, you have a Cryptic in the graveyard that's going to cost you 6 mana. If you Torrential Gear Hulk, you're paying 6 mana anyway, and it's actually less blue mana. So, like in other words, you've got now that's where they fall apart again because Gear Hulk can't really do the very efficient Snapcaster path play. So you have to keep that in mind as well. But this guy's really neat. I think this guy has potential for sure. Anyway, let's look at some of these other cards. Let me zoom out a little bit so we can see the whole line of cards. Better. So moving along, Vendura's Gear Hulk has obvious play in Standard. I'm not that excited about this card anywhere else, but I think the two that excite me the most are Torrential. We're not really going to talk about the black and red Gear Hulks. I think that Noxious will see play in maybe like cube formats. Combustible just seems what's going on here. People have been messing around with New Nissa. I've seen a bunch of people trying to make Torch of Defiance Chandra work. I don't know about that. This card's like really neat, but obviously from a play standpoint, not a thing. But it is neat. Let's see. I did try to brew around Madcap Experiment. It seems really neat. It also takes a lot to get it to work because you'd have to make it so it doesn't deal damage to you. You need something weird like Tamanoa or that one enchantment that makes it so you don't take damage on your own turn, like if a permanent you control or spell or permanent you control would deal damage to you. Instead, it deals no damage. I think it's called Personal Sanctuary. So that would work with Madcap Experiment. If you guys don't know, this one's revealed cards at the top of your library until you reveal an artifact card. Put it onto the battlefield. Stop there. That's awesome. I would pay 4 mana to do that. The problem is the rest of the text. It's going to deal damage to you equal to the number of the cards that you revealed, so that's where you would die if you're just trying to tutor up like a, like a, I wouldn't say necessarily Blightsteel, but that is the potential for Experiment. Yeah, I guess you would probably search up a Blightsteel. All right. Yeah, Fumigate is the sweeper people are rocking right now, at least in Standard. It's not bad. Destroy all creatures, gain 1 life. The other card I was excited about is none of these. It's like people were talking about authority of the consoles. This does seem interesting for slowing the roll on some of the aggressive decks. Kind of likened to the new Ravnica Blind Obedience. This is they enter the battlefield tapped, and if a creature went enter the battlefield under their control, we gain a life. So, as the active player. Other cool cards, Midnight Oil. Getting this thing to work seems difficult in a control shell, but if you're like a mid-range deck, it seems fine because you don't really care about not having a hand at the end of it all. So that one, doubles your draw for 4 turns. So you get 7 counters. You draw twice 3 times, right? No, 4 times. Other cards. None of these I was really interested in. Maybe I'll spend some more time on some of these cards, but none of them really. Now, Glimmer of Genius has me excited. I don't know if it's going to be playable in some of the Eternal formats, but this thing seems sweet. Basically, a strict upgrade to Inspiration, 4 mana, draw 2. So it's instant. So scry 2, then draw 2, and you also get 2 energy. So that's really, really neat in this format. I'm not all that sure that it's going to do anything else. So this is interesting. I mean, like, the thing is you have to, and I think these energy counter cards will maybe Blossoming Defense is sweet. Put it in Infect, maybe. It's essentially half. I like to think of this as like half of a Vines of Vastwood. Like, you're getting the hexproof and half of the pump that Vines would give, and then of course Vines has better top end because you can go green +4/+4. But this seems really nice. Blossoming Defense. Seems really, really great for like Infect. Let's see. Because like if you need more combat stats, at the same time you also need the hexproof. This seems really, really efficient. Maybe in some cases more efficient than the Vines. But all right, let's see. Um, I'm just not really that impressed um, with many of the. Well, this one seems interesting. Just as far as like energy spenders go, maybe they'll build some more, print some more cards that actually use that mechanic. Let's keep going. Let's kind of get to the cards that I'm most interested in, I think, because I've kind of already scanned the set, so let's kind of get to the stuff I'm excited about. It's in the multicolored section, so let's just go skip all the way to that. Here we go. We can talk about the walkers in a minute. I actually want to talk about this guy first. I think this guy's flying under the radar. I think I'm definitely going to try to brew with this guy. Um, so this is the 2 mana, so very efficient. 2 mana, 1/4. Okay, well, doesn't get bolted. That's good. Lifelinker. So we could stop there for a moment. So a 1/4 lifelinker for blue black. Well, that's nice, right? I mean, I've even tried weird things like we tried Murklurk, because anytime you build a blue black deck, you want to slot it into modern, you have the problem that you're not going to have a chance game one against some of these really aggressive decks. You have to splash another color, ideally white, to give yourself some timely reinforcements. That's not great. This guy could be part of the initial package of a blue black artifact deck. Um, give you that defensive wall that, because there's lots of like white based control that use like they'll use Wall of Omens for that kind of purpose to just kind of block the early game. But this guy seems really neat. Obviously he's not a defender, he's a straight up 1/4 lifelinker. The other ability that excites me about this guy is the second one, of course. Whenever an artifact enters the battlefield under your control, scry 1. So this guy would obviously slot into something that's artifact based. You could put him in anything from Lantern to, I was actually thinking Tezzeret, Modern Tezzerator. So that's kind of cool, because then you get some value out of playing that. So like that was my problem with, you play something like Sword of the Meek, but you don't have the Thopter Foundry just yet. You play this guy first, and then it's like, oh well, sure, I'll gladly play my Sword of the Meek. And to that effect, you slap a Sword of the Meek on this guy, he's pretty decent at that point. Just turning the Sword of the Meek into something more than just... That's always been my problem with Thopter Sword, is the cards don't really do all that much when they're apart, but when they're together, it's, obviously it's an amazing combo. But this has potential. Other than that, it looks like... Obviously people are excited about Sky Sovereign. I don't know. I think it's a lot of work for something that just gets Kolaghan's commanded. Now, if I'm worried about Kolaghan's command, why am I thinking of brewing, Tezzerator anyway? I think the vehicle mechanic is actually really neat. I think it's funny that people didn't really think that they would be playable. We've seen a bunch of decks already using Smuggler's Copter in Standard. Pretty much every deck that wasn't some sort of control deck I saw had some number of copters. Whether or not it was a vehicle deck, it was just really good. I think part of it has to do with the fact that this card has a very efficient crew requirement. The fact that it's also not just when it attacks or blocks, you draw first before you... Like, this card is really good. Anyway, obviously you have to pilot it, but the card still seems solid. Anyway, we can talk about the Planeswalkers real quick. I did see Dovin Baan on screen. I was watching a little bit of the Star City coverage, and he seems cool. I saw controlled. I think the controlled player lost, but he definitely checks a lot of the different, like, the plus ability is relevant. He's good at protecting himself, reasonably decent at that. He's also got a card advantage potential with the minus ability, so that's always good. When I'm looking at blue walkers, that's definitely something I'm looking at. The emblem, I'm not so. I mean, obviously that's powerful, but it might be too late. Rai, she's interesting. I like her plus a lot. I like the plus because not only is it producing virtual card advantage, scrying is, some players equate it to worth half of a card. Yeah, I guess so. So, I mean, the fact that it's a plus ability, you're manipulating the top of your deck, you're also killing your opponent, is really neat, actually. I really like this plus ability from her. I think that it's really underestimated. The fact that you're not only sculpting the top of your deck, but she's also, I mean, you could just plus her until they die. So that's really nice. So she's gaining loyalty, you're manipulating the top of your deck, your opponent's life total is shrinking. I think she's a lot stronger than people might realize. Her -2 and her -7 are questionable. I think it'd be hard to... I think it's hard to get the -2 to be sweet. But maybe that's just because I haven't brewed around her just yet. I mean, like, certain creatures, copying certain creatures can be very, very powerful. You copy a Snapcaster, you copy a... let's say you copy... oh gosh. Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, her ultimate can be very, very, very powerful. I mean, you put, she could search up any combination of artifacts that could be game-ending, or just grab a blight. It depends on what format you're playing her in. Obviously, in Vintage, you just would go grab. Obviously, you just go grab the infinite turn combo. So. Yeah, she seems. These two walkers do seem neat. I do prefer her, not just for her mana cost price tag being less, but also the fact that her +1 is just. I think a lot of times players are going to measure their planeswalkers by the minus abilities. I try to think about the plus ability. I think anytime you see a powerful plus ability, you should definitely look into it. Definitely. Yeah, I mean, other than that, I'm sure there's some sleepers in here I haven't really nailed down yet. For sure. I mean, there's a lot of artifacts to sift through. But that'll just take some time. Yeah, I think it looks. A buddy of mine told me that I'm actually going to really love this this draft format. He said he played it, really enjoyed it. So that's a thing. Harsh Scrutiny seems neat. Although I don't know about modern playable, but certainly a hand hate spell that has scry attached to it is no joke. Very efficient. Certainly in a format that people are just jamming creatures, maybe your standards, etc. This certainly could see play. Harsh Scrutiny. So I was looking at that card. Yeah, so Scrutiny, Glimmer of Genius, Contraband, Kingpin. Those are maybe the three. Obviously, trying to do funny, cool, awesome things with Gear Hulk could be a thing. And again, remember, when you're thinking Snapcaster into Cryptic, this guy actually is technically... if you're at the point with Snapcaster that you're flashing back 4 or more mana spells, you're actually better off with Gear Hulk. So you need to keep that in mind. Any other play he's going to fall short of. I'd love to do just a gatherer search with you guys, and we could look at all the cool spells out there that would be worth gear hulking. It's like modern instants, and then we could sort it by converted mana cost, and then just like kind of look at some of the most ridiculous, huge CMC instants that let's do descending. Like everything from hang on. Everything from okay, here you go. So, you know, obviously not this. All right, so here we go. Let's see what would actually be a thing. Okay, there you go, Commandeer. I was already thinking about that guy. Firemind's Foresight. So you could go grab, what would you grab? A Kolaghan's Command, a Remand, and a Path? I don't even know. Well, they wouldn't be in the same deck, but you get the point. This could be sweet. Inferno. I don't know, it would definitely take some brewing. I mean, like, it's unfortunate that these instants aren't all that exciting. I mean, you guys all know that I'm a fan of Commandeer, and that would be sweet. The problem is you'd need a relevant target. You need them to cast a juicy spell, you know. So let's say, you know, they go for, you know, they go to cast an Nahiri. You're like, all right, well, I'm gonna Gear Hulk, you know, essentially flashback this Commandeer, take your Nahiri. That seems pretty sweet, but probably Magical Christmas Land. You know, magic. What I mean by that is just way too crazy. Would probably never happen. This one's interesting. Gather Specimens. I've messed around with before. Yeah, if a creature enters the battlefield under their opponent's control, enters the battlefield under your control. Cool things you can do with that. Summoning Trap. Huh. Summoning Trap into Gear Hulk into... The trigger would go on the stack, and then you get to cast another Summoning Trap, and then... What would happen if you hit another Gear Hulk? Well, there wouldn't be another Summoning Trap in the graveyard, so that would stop. Yeah. Well, it's definitely something we can mess around with. I think the card, whether or not you're trying to cast like a ridiculous spell with it, I think it goes fine with Cryptic. You know. I think it goes plenty fine with a Cryptic command as well. The fact that it's essentially the same mana cost as a Snapcaster Mage Cryptic play has a lot of potential for the Gear Hulk. So I mean, you know, let's say you're building, let's say you're building something that you know is going to be heavy on Cryptics, So say, you know, some sort of blue-based control. You know, if you're already thinking of Snapcasters and Cryptics, if that's already where your mind is, then the Gear Hulk makes sense in the deck. You know, if you're running more than 2 Cryptics, you know, 2 or more Cryptics, I think the Gear Hulk makes a lot of sense. As a fine top end. You know, it's just a matter of, do you want to go into Grixis? Do you want to be Esper? Do you want... Not that I have anything against, you know, the traditional, or the Nahiri control that most blue white red mages are playing. I'd love to go back to the roots of. This is not going to show up yet, but you know, maybe 1 or 2 Gear Hulks here. Yeah, I think the card is a lot neater than people might even realize. Obviously, it being an artifact creature, that also makes it vulnerable to artifact hate, in addition to creature hate. But I definitely see this guy being powerful. Now, on the flip side, Gear Hulk would be no good for flashing back, you know, a Supreme Verdict or a Wrath of God. So you gotta think about that. You know, on the flip side, Snapcaster is still the better candidate for reusing cards like this. Of course, it gets me excited that Gear Hulk could be good with something like Commandeer. I don't know if obviously I wouldn't main deck a Commandeer, but I would consider some number in the sideboard. Because that just seems too neat to pass up. The fact that the Gear Hulk lets you just use this again, just for the price of the Gear Hulk, I think is really neat. Now, don't get me wrong, Commandeer is a very heavy card to run any copies of. And then from here, you know, you decide, well, do you want to go into Esper, or do you want to go into Blue White Red, or do you want to go into Grixis? Do you want to not run the white? Just kind of depends on what you want to be meted for. There's a lot of reason, at least on the Magic Online metagame, there's a lot of benefits to being Blue White Red. Helix is one of them. You know, Bolt's the other, and there's a reason that Blue White Red does do as well as it does. And then you can look into, like, I mean, I would love to play just a straight up Blue White Red, and whether or not the Nahiri's in the main deck or the sideboard or in the deck at all, I would love to play it with the Gear Hulks. I think that would be really neat. I've been a long time proponent of Jace plus Nahiri plus Emrakul. I like having access to both walkers. And then the next question is, do you want to be on the Ancestral Plan is the next question. It's actually 15 right there, but I would probably do... Obviously, this isn't anywhere near where we want it yet. Yeah, I would just kind of build it from there, and then it's a matter of how many mana leaks do you want, how many spell snares do you want to run? You want to run 2, you want to run 3, do you want to run any remand? Probably no more than 2. Mana leak is a 3 of. And then yeah, I would initially test maybe 1 to 2 Gear Hulks, and see how we like them or don't like them. So that leaves me about 2 slots of flex left. 2 slots. I do really like this card. Alliance. To the point where maybe I'll test a split of Helix Alliance. And then obviously probably the classic Celestial, like main deck, our finish would just be Mages, Colonnades, and the Gear Hulks. Let me flesh out a mana base here real quick. I know some of you guys really miss me brewing decks right in front of you. So you're kind of getting a taste of this in this video today. Let's see. Tarn Strand. I don't know how many Arid Mesa it would run. I don't know how heavy you want to be on fetches. Anyway, in this case. Probably 2 vents. Maybe a fountain. Definitely a fountain, excuse me. Maybe we'll run because we do have Wrath, Verdict, and Anger in the same deck, so maybe Sacred Foundry is worth it. If you have any, let's see, Mystic Gate. Mystic Gate's an option, or you could run Cascade, because we do have both Cryptic and Anger in the same deck. Oops. Cascade Bluffs, that is. So you got Bluffs, and then, you know, I wouldn't run both Filter Lands, but I would pick one or the other. And then that's just a matter of, are your white costs more taxing or your red costs more taxing? It looks like we're actually evenly split, right? We've got 2 Anger, and I'm thinking a Wrath and a Verdict. So, They're evenly split. I think the fact that we have a bunch of colonnades actually lends itself more to the Cascade bluffs because we're already running more white sources in general. Probably bluffs, and bluffs would make the Foundry less awkward. Although so would the Mystic Gate. But anyway, we'll try that. Probably 2 islands minimum. I'll consider a third. I'm gonna run 2, I think. Maybe we want some glacials or sulfur falls. You know, just depends on if you want to try to mitigate the damage that we're taking. They might be sitting there like, well, we look pretty awful against Tron. Well, yes and no. I think something that lends itself to our sideboarding, the commandeers, the flux. I mean, if you can just path the worm coils and then you steal a walker, you're looking pretty good in that matchup. Alright, let's see. I'm going to run 1 plains at least. And I'll consider the basic mountain, because we are running the full suite of Scalding Tarns and 1 Arid Mesa. So we'll consider as many as 2 plains. Probably only going to run 1 and 1 mountain. It's fine. Something I'm not running any copies of is the Wear Tear. That's something else I should consider. I wouldn't run more than 1 of each of those, potentially. We're at 24 land. I want to be on 25. I could literally just cut a plains and then run both of these. So then you add the 2 Gear Hulks and then you have 2 flex spots. You have 2 flex cards. What would they be? Maybe it's the 3rd Helix. Maybe it's a 2nd Electrolyze and 2 Gear Hulk. Or, because you're not always going to have a Cryptic, so we'll want more powerful spells for Gear Hulk to have access to. Obviously, the Gear Hulk, if we're going to run any, he's happy to hit these Cryptics. Everything else, not so much, except for maybe Path. Is there something else to think about if we're going to build this? Could just call this Gear Hulk Jess Guy. I need to put Gear Hulk in the name because I'll forget to grab some. But, yeah, Gear Hulk Jess Guy. That's fine. And then we can sideboard into the Nahiri. Or you can run this main board, like you can run the Nahiri Emrakul main board. Could do that, and then, because the Gear Hulks are obviously liable to just get toasted to your opponent's removal game 1. The thing is, though, if you've already gotten the value out of them crypticking, I don't mind that at all. I don't mind that in the slightest. I do like Logic Knot. Yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of, do we want to be less dead to the aggressive decks? Do we want to be a little bit better against the combo decks? Let's see, 2 Gear Hulks. I mean, this is where you start looking at, do you add more burn, or do we want to add more Wraths, or do we want to add more flex cards? Like, Alliance is a really neat flex card. I would love to somehow get would like to somehow get more or get some number of wear tear into this sideboard, even if it means main decking a Verdict. So 2 Gear Hulks and then 1 more flex card. Do I want it to be the Alliance? Do I want another counterspell? Yeah, let's go with the 3rd Mana Leak. I think that's what I want to do. Yeah. I think that's fine. Yeah, so something like this is where I would consider running Gear Hulks at all, like heavier on the Cryptic than I have run in the past, and then some really neat, powerful spells that he can flash back out of the board. So like if you're in a matchup where you're going to be bringing in like Flux or Commandeer, the Gear Hulk would be able to flash both of those back. I mean, it's technically not flashback. It casts the instant. You know, you may cast the instant from your graveyard. You don't have to pay the mana cost. Anyway, guys, I think that's where I'll can it for now. I guess the only other deck I was considering messing around with cards, as far as like modern decks with Kaladesh, it was going to be, I was considering Kingpin Tezzeret. It's a nice ring to it. That was going to be running this guy, the Contraband Kingpin. So you'd have Kingpins. Obviously, I can't put them in just yet because they're not out on Moto. But you got your Tezzerets. You've got your sword combo. I don't know if you want to go into Seekers or not. Do you want your acceleration to be, do you want to go plain blue-black and then have Darksteels? Darksteel also lets you can start thinking about Moxen. You can start thinking about but you can start thinking about Mox Opal. And then you probably got to think about like Talisman, and maybe you run some Signets. So you got Dominance, maybe 2 or 3 of that, and then you've got Demir Signet. Probably a split of these guys, and then you're looking at probably 2 or 3 Wateries. 2 island, maybe 1 swamp. You could consider 2. You're going to be looking at, you know, Damnation. You're going to be looking at now, I've long been on the fence about whether or not I want how many bridges to run. You know, do you try something like Reshape? Or would you rather just use Tezzeret the Seeker to find bridges and the pieces of the combo? These are both options if you want like a tutor. Seeker still might be better in that case. Now, in Modern, we have 2 ways we can go here. We can... The thing is when you look at Legacy Tezzerator, it has a really, you know, thanks to Force of Will, it's pretty easy to empty the hand quickly. This deck, the only things that empty quickly are the opals and like talismans and signets and lands. Like these are all played very easily. The rest of the deck is not as easily played. So let's see, we have up to 3 sword. And I have this many foundries. Okay. So, perfect. So, yeah, I mean, there's that to think about, like, you know. And then I want to leave 4 spots for kingpins. Just trying to see what a couple different configurations would look like. Capsules are cool. But yeah, like one way we could do this is, because again, Modern, it's not Legacy, it's not as 1-drop dependent. Don't get me wrong, like Chalice of the Void is sweet, but it doesn't beat everyone. It just doesn't. In Legacy, there's a lot of decks that it will. Plenty of decks that it will, but it's just not the case in Modern. Modern has just a wider range of converted mana costs going on than Legacy. So, to that effect, I almost would rather forego the Void, the Chalices, and focus more on like a Seeker build with Thoughtseize, Kingpins, Inquisitions. But I want to be a tap-out control. In other words, I'm not looking at much, if any, counter magic. I think that's where the decks are totally different. We still have room for kingpins, but I need more lands, so... Like, for example, for every Tezzeret I run, I could maybe shave on the foundries and the swords. Now, you might argue, well, you're always going to want it. You're also going to want additional copies. Just because of spell snares and, you know, things like Kolaghan's Command. And you're right. You're absolutely right. So we could run at least 1 Ruins. And maybe Dark Slicks. My problem with Dark Slick Shores is if we're trying to get to Seekers and Agent of Boluses and Damnations, it feels so awkward There's some games that just feel so awkward, um, where you just desperately need to get to, excuse me, a particular amount of mana. You just need to get to it. I mean, when Chalice is good, it's really good. Um, Maybe we'll sideboard them. You need to be careful about something like Sunken Ruins, because if you don't have the initial black or blue mana, you're in trouble. Yeah, yes, and that's my problem with Darkslick. Like, you look at a land like Darkslick Shores, and then you look at like these 4 or 5 mana drops that you're trying to get to. You try and slam Desert the Seeker because maybe you didn't have Bridge, or you're up against a combo, you don't have Sphere. You slam Desert the Seeker, and he'll immediately grab those things, put them into play for you. Um, blue. We just don't have enough blue to even consider this card, do we? That's too bad. That's okay. I would consider some number of negates for the board. Maybe 2. Oh boy. Three lands, and then we'll think about the yeah. I just really don't want them to be the Darkslick, but it might be the best land. Just because I'm so worried. Like the problem with this deck, we've messed around with this deck several times in the past. The major problem, and I don't even think I want Watery Grave, although that's an option. I mean, excuse me, I don't know if I want Creeping Tar Pit. Is that the mana production just doesn't seem to always be there? Are we turning on these Mox Opals easily? Is the next question. Let's see. So let's go ahead and look at that aspect of the deck. Are we turning on... Are those getting activated easily? And you can't count subsequent Mox Opals. So for every Mox Opal you play, you need 2 other artifacts to happen. I think we're below that threshold because it's only 21. It's only 21. Now, how much of the deck is like mana production? It's like you got half the deck just devoted to mana production, and then You're just hoping that some hand hate disruption, or that you just get the sword off bridges and capsules and damnations and tezzerets. You know, you're just hoping that those get there, right? What if your opponent's deck isn't a creature-based deck, it's more of a spell-based deck or a combo? You just have to hope the Thoughtseize and Inquisitions strike true, and then you board in the negates and maybe the Trinisphere, you know? Maybe more Seeker. It's not a great place to be. So, you know, is this a Mox Opal deck? I think the answer is no. Unless we can get that artifact count up, I think there's going to be plenty of board states where you have 2 artifacts, and one of them is the Mox Opal, and it's doing nothing. So I think you could run one. That gives Tezzeret the Seeker something to use his -X for 0 to go grab. Although you could just grab a Darksteel Citadel. I guess if you wanted something that produces colored mana, you could run the Opal. So I think we can get away with 1 Opal. That means we need to add some more land. Okay. Well, let's consider the tar pit now. And let's consider, let's see. I mean, you could just main deck the sphere. There's also nothing wrong with main boarding spell bombs. They cantrip, or they can screw over an opposing Snapcaster, or Shrink a Goyf, or beat Dredge. Or not necessarily beat Dredge, but well, you can beat Dredge with Bridge if you can just get out underneath Bridge. And there you go, and then you just add 4, now you just add this guy. Contraband Kingpins. And then he's triggering off of, not only is he a 1/4 lifelink, but he's going to turn your Darksteel Citadels into a Scry. Mox Opal is now a Scry. These Scry. These all Scry. This is a Scry. So you're looking at, you know, what is that? I want it to be over 1/3 of the deck, so I'm looking at... okay, so over 1/3 of the deck is going to let him get a Scry trigger. He's also a nice roadblock against these aggressive decks without having to... That's crazy that this deck ended up being a 3/2. That blows my mind. That's crazy. I did not expect this to be a 3/2. I was just screwing around, guys. I don't think we ever got to steal the Godhead Geist of St. Traft off. I think we put Steel on one of these 2 once. I don't remember putting it on Geist. That's a thing. But yeah, this guy has me excited. I think that's a shell that this guy could go into. Anything from Lantern to Tezzerator. So we would just need to figure out what the heck we want to do with the sideboard, and then add... maybe you want more removal. You know, maybe you want, like, Disfigures. Or maybe you want Slaughter. I like Slaughter Pact in these tap-out Tezzeret style decks because I can't really sit back. Like, it's not designed... Like, that's why I'm even worried about these negates. It's a tap-out control deck. Like, you don't want to sit with open mana, so, like, something like Slaughter Pact is actually really neat when you know they have creatures that are of that color that need to be removed. That also means I have, like, 3 Doomblade-like effects. That's not great, is it? Because that's, like, setting us up for the potential to face some black creatures and just not have the removal. So maybe we want like a mix of creature kill that we can run, like Disfigure, maybe Victim of Night. I think Victim of Night is fine. Maybe even more main deckable than Executioner's Capsule. Obviously, we could lose to like an opposing Dark Confidant going haywire, you know, going crazy, or you could lose to... That's the big one. As far as like black threats I'm worried about. You don't actually see that many black creature threats in mod. I mean, like, sure, there's going to be Tazigurs and Gurmag Anglers. I feel bad about that, too. That would also bring my artifact count down, if we wanted to do this instead. But yeah, I mean, that brings your artifact count down. And the thing is I've already slimmed us on Mox Opal, so maybe that's okay. Maybe I should just run these guys. Again, like, that's reactionary, though. I'd rather have something that I can just commit to the board for artifact count or turning on opals, etc. Like, honestly, I'd rather just run the Mox Opals, but... These always will cantrip, so I think I'm fine with running Spellbomb's main. I like being able to return this, though, with the Academy Ruins. Why don't we do that? Okay. And then I'll make up my mind about some of these removal spells later. Yeah, I just think the simple fact that we're considering running the simple fact that we're thinking of running the Kingpins, I think, gives you a lot more play against like your aggressive Zoo or maybe even Burn game 1. Just hitting one or two of those guys game 1 buys you enough time to hit the Foundry Sword and then just kind of go from there, or you know, and then you sideboard in like the Chalices and the Spell Skites, and then you're feeling really great against like Burn. I'd probably, I mean, obviously I'd bring in the Trinisphere as well. Like, what else would I bring in against Burn? Like, what would come out, what would come in? Bridge actually is a little slow. I'm gonna open a new copy. So, like, I mean, that's like one of the biggest things that stops a Tezzerator in Modern is just the very, very hyper-aggressive Zoo and Burn decks can really just trounce you. Sure, like, you might get a lucky draw of one or two Kingpins game 1, buys you enough time to get off the sword combo. You know, how do you look game 2? Well, let's see. If it's Burn, we definitely want Chalices. I think Executioners is a little slow. Give me Disfigure instead and Victims. This is essentially 3 mana to kill something, which is a lot. Give me that Trinisphere. Maybe we cut on bridges. If they're Zoo, you don't. Because they're just more creature dense. Jar, because they're going to be bringing in... I like Thoughtseize a lot less, but maybe it's just well, we'll take out the bombs. Now, I think Seeker becomes weaker in this matchup. And give me Spell Skites. In fact, you maybe are supposed to just cut all the Seekers. Oh, but we would also... Hang on a second, this isn't correct, because we're also going to have the... also going to have what? We're going to have I think those decks are just so fast that they'll just get under our skin, and I don't think I'll have enough time to get the bridge on the table without we need to make 2 cuts. Maybe even cut some Tezzerets. I mean, like, it's a fast deck, and then that would be the four I think it's hard to run that many walkers and that many, you know, any bridges really against such an aggressive, those particular aggressive, you know, Zoo, Suicide Zoo, Burn decks. I think it's hard to run this package here because it's hard to get under the bridge before they kill you. And yes, while having some number of Tezzeret is fine, I don't think that that's going to be better than... I mean, maybe Seeker's better here than Agent even. If we're going to run any Tezzerets, maybe Seeker's the better one because that'll go grab the Trinisphere. That'll go grab the missing piece, whether it be sword or maybe you want to grab a Spellskite against, like, if there's Suicide Zoo. Maybe you need to go grab, the missing piece here. He's not really better when it comes to Chalice, though, because if you search up a Chalice of the Void, it's going to be on 0. It's not that exciting. So, yeah, you would have to, if we can't make up our minds, we'll just run both. But Ancient of Bolas is better at producing an immediate blocker. Tezzeret the Seeker is going to be better at grabbing an immediate bridge or Trinisphere. So maybe that's actually the best thing, is this. 1 Seeker, 1 bridge, 1 sphere, 2 damnation. And then just hope that the addition of some more creature removal, the Spellskites, obviously the playset of Contraband Kingpins could make a big difference. But anyways, guys, I might stream this weekend. I might not. We'll see. But I want to get this video uploaded so we have something for our Patreons and YouTube watchers. So thanks for hanging out with me. Sorry we didn't have the cam going, but maybe the next video I do on here we will. Yeah, I'm looking forward to Kaladesh. Obviously, the only 2 cards I've brewed around so far for you guys is Kingpin and Gearhulk. Those are pretty obvious in what they can do. I still love the idea of Gearhulk into Commandeer, but yeah, we'll see if some of these other guys are worth it. I think there was one more creature I was interested in. It's already seeing play, unfortunately, so I wouldn't be the first to be messing with it. It was the 1/4. I'll find it. It's a 1/4 for 3? Maybe it was better than that. Hang on, let me look around for it. No, I don't see it. Maybe I'm thinking of a different. Gosh, some of these cards are just gorgeous, by the way. If you haven't looked through all of them yet, I think it's really cool that they're going to be doing the Masterpiece series. Yeah, the swords look great. Just wow. Some of these just wow. You know? Aren't some of these just gorgeous cards? I mean, really. More of this, please. More of this, Wizards, please. Like, the Aether Vial looks sweet, too. Yeah, the Curio's sweet, too. And, like, we're getting new Crucibles. Like, that's exciting. It just looks like they took a lot of time and effort with these, and that in and of itself excites me. I don't know if they needed to make Kaladesh Invention versions of the Gearhulks, but I think it's kind of cool that they did. Anyway. I guess I'll leave you guys with those thoughts, and I'll see you guys on the next video or stream, whichever I'm able to make time to do. Alright, I'll see you guys.